Progress report number 9 from our haul out at Reback Marina, Langkawi. The shipyard's in the top middle of the picture. In the marina at Reback Island, here's an image of Reback Island. I own a 2013 38-foot Island Spirit catamaran called Wilson. Recently we went to the Koura Immigration Centre and got a 30-day extension with the assistance of Subra from the Marina management team. Our intention is after the 30 days, if we finish the boat, we'll sail down to Johor and then up to Nongsa in Indonesia and check in. We're down to our final coats of epoxy as a base before we paint with copper coat. We've been using Kosan 90 parts A and B, which has been fairly good. So we're out of the water at Reback Marina shipyard. Finally finished preparing the two rudders for the copper coat. My intention is to do some practice runs on small areas, namely the two rudders with the copper coats using a spray gun. Likewise with the keels, sanding and repairing damage and strengthening with some woven mat. And here's some video of what we did with the little skirt between the keel and the upper hull, which annoyed the bag out of me and had problems with dampness and water getting in, and we couldn't lay the mat properly on the vertical slope because it kept getting air bubbles. And that's probably through inexperience, but it's getting to a point where it's nice and curved and ready for finishing touches. We'll put two more coats of epoxy on before we paint it with the copper coat, and as I said, I'll use the keels and the rudders as a test sample for spray painting copper coat on. As I've previously reported, we've got rid of the moisture in the bows and repaired the damage, and now I'm considering putting on a Teflon coat on the front of it to give it more strength. After 2 or 3 days of heavy rain, I'm happy that we've got zero water content in the transoms and steps, because we've sealed the steps and transoms with some epoxy and some mat, and it's ready for finishing touches. So I purchased this 2-part Technifill filler from Langkawi Yacht Supply, and what we intend to do, you read the instructions and it says mix equal parts and blend them together properly so that both the white and the blue parts A and B are one colour. You can see that I'm using different spatulas so that we don't muck it up, and I haven't done it for 40 odd years, so it's a bit of a learning process for me. So I took my time and got equal parts in the best way I could by using this little container. Some of the instructions I've read for different products tell us to weigh the two different parts, but boy was that a pain in the neck trying to do that, because it's so sticky and awkward to handle. So I use this technique of putting it into the two colours into the different ends of the container and looking at the different sizes, getting a match, and then mixing them together on a chopping board. And that way I made sure that I'm getting the right balance, parts A and B. Scraped them out of the small container and put them on the chopping board, and began the process of mixing them together. And this brought back childhood memories and playing with Play-Doh, and it was quite enjoyable. And it wasn't strenuous, so that was great. my wife took over from me with the mixing because she was able to do it much quicker than I could. And here's some video of me taking little bits at a time and squeegeeing them onto the join between the hull and the upper deck, where we've had the water leaking into the hull. So the idea was to seal off this area and then epoxy and put a double bias mat over the top of it to stop the leaks. So here's some video of a nearly completed job. We ran out of the 8 litres of Technifill, which annoyed the bag out of me, and here's the next day, the dry fill, and that's before we sanded it off to get a smoother finish, because our intentions are to put a few coats of epoxy on and also a double bias woven mat right around the joins. We didn't put too much effort into sanding it off, just smooth enough finish to make our job easier to get rid of this leak between the hull and the upper deck. The idea is to create a nice curve between the hull and the upper deck. Because we ran out of Technifill and we only had a small section to finish off, I bought some much cheaper product called Go-Fill, and that wasn't as good as the Technifill, but it did the job properly. So the next video will show the finish of the Technifill and the sanding and smoothing and curving of that join between the hull and the upper deck. So the video was produced by myself, and it's the end of another exciting video of our progress report on work done so far on the haul out at Reback Island, Langkawi.